John is calling from Texas to say that the gumball experiment proves God. John, you want to go over? Welcome, by the way. You want to go over the gumball experiment first, so that we're sure we're talking about the same thing, and then explain how that proves a God and which God?
Yes, greetings. So the gumball experiment, pretty much in general, was first formed in 1907 by a guy named Francis Galton, and pretty much what it is he's pretty much the guy that figured out that by comparing people's guesses to, like, let's say in this example, an ox, by comparing people's guesses to how much the ox weighs, he found out that over time and over many different guesses, that once he had the median or the middle number out of all these guesses, it would tie down to the accuracy of the ox's real weight. And pretty much it's kind of like another way of saying, the wisdom of the crowd. The
Yes.
more people that guess on something, the more accurate the actual answer becomes. So that's what I mean by the gumball proving God.
Okay. Can you see the screen?
No, I'm not watching it.
Okay. Well, I have a Galton board in front of me. You mentioned Galton, and so I just happen to have this in front of me. It shows, well, I have it tilted a little bit, but it shows basically the standard distribution. There's nothing that forces any of these balls to drop down into any one or to produce that every time. This is just a demonstration of odds. So yeah, Galton demonstrated the kind of wisdom of the crowd, which is, on average, you're going to have some people who think there's 12 gumballs in there and some people who think there's 12 million gumballs in there. But as you work towards the median answer, you get surprisingly close. And what it shows is that we individually might be wrong, but an aggregate view, in some cases where we have statistical examples, we're going to get closer to right. How does that prove there's a God?
Well, I mean, just look at the universe and you look at how, the world has, and then the culture that, that we've learned over the years and an entire human history. I mean, you have, countries and different religions like Buddhism, Christianity, all sorts of different religions have, come up with a God, but they all point to the same thing, the same type of being. It may not be the same being because, every religion believes in different gods and all. But it's always, they always point to some sort of supernatural being, deity. And I mean, obviously you're going to have, like every experiment, like there's an example in the gumball experiment, you might have outliers and all. But I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, I mean, you have all these people coming up, with these answers about, whether or not there's a God. And, it's kind of fascinating because, I mean, it's different. It's funny how different parts of the world have said that a God exists, like I said, it might not be the same one, but the fact that people are mentioning it is something to really consider.
So I'm going to ask again, how does the wisdom of crowd prove there's a God?
Because, like I said, like the more of an answer, the more of a guess you get, the closer you get to the answer. And so far from what we've been seeing,
no. The wisdom of the crowd in the gumball example is about statistical analysis, where we have some experience with X and we are taking a collection of opinions and averaging them and hitting closely on it. This is the normative distribution that's on this Galton board. But that doesn't prove, by the way, that there's 723 gumballs in that jar at all. You prove it by counting it.
I mean, yeah, sure. You prove it by counting it.
So let's count. Let's count gods. Let's count gods. How many are there?
I don't know, probably like thousands, maybe millions. Everyone has their interpretation of God.
Okay. Of those thousands or millions of God concepts, how many of them are real?
Well, I mean, I'm going to be honest, I don't know, but I think the thing that matters the most here is the fact that, I mean, is there even a God being to begin with? I mean, that's the whole reason why I brought the gumball experiment, because, you know, I mean, at the end of the day,
I'm confused.
like,
I just asked you how many of them are real, and your response was to say that you think the whole issue is there a God at all? Isn't that what I just asked you?
Yeah, I mean, we can rephrase the question again. So I might have, you know, misunderstood.
Okay. So are you familiar with an argumentum ad populum fallacy?
Yes.
What's that fallacy?
The fallacy is just because everyone agrees to it, or a lot of people agree to it, doesn't mean that it's true.
Okay. So how does the wisdom of the crowd demonstrate that a God exists in a way that does not fall prey to an argumentum ad populum fallacy?
Well, I mean, honestly, I don't know. I mean, the only thing I can come up with, the only reason why I even mentioned the gumball example to begin with is because, I mean, the reason why the wisdom of the crowd even works is because, you know, people have different, you know, that diversity of opinions. Some people's opinion, like you said, there's a billion denominations of gods, maybe millions. But the thing that matters here is that, you know, each opinion is unique, which makes it more important because, you know,
No,
it's
they're
not
not.
necessarily influenced. What happened?
Two people could have exactly the same guess as to how many gumballs are in there, and two people could have exactly the same opinion about how many gods there are, right? So they're not necessarily unique. That's not what the wisdom of the crowd is. The wisdom of the crowd says that essentially you're always going to get a normative distribution. I wish you could see the video since I had the Galton board up, but you're going to get a normative distribution.
Well, I mean, I'm watching it live.
You're going to get a normative distribution on multiple trials. The fact is, how many gods have we ever demonstrated in the history of the world?
Demonstrate? I don't know. Like, what do you mean by demonstration? I mean, God could be anything.
To show that they actually exist.
Well, I mean, we have, you know, the Bible as an example. I mean, it's a historical.
Is the Bible a God that has been shown to exist?
Well, the Bible is a framework, or you know, a book that we can use as reference to show that God does exist.
The Bible is a book. How does it show that God exists?
I mean, the scriptures they point how Jesus is true and all, and you know, stories that, you know, that we've learned over time, the lessons that we've learned in the book. I mean, it's true. It's mostly true.
I don't get it.
And
how does the Bible show that God is real?
I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, the book itself. I mean,
if the Bible showed that God is real, why would anybody need to appeal to the wisdom of the crowd?
Repeat that question again. Sorry.
If the Bible demonstrated that God was real, why would anybody need to appeal to the wisdom of the crowd?
Well, because, you know, some people, like atheists, like they just don't believe the Bible is straight. You know, they don't believe the book, the word of God. So, you know, sometimes we have to come up with other things in order to convince others of what is true, which is why I brought up the gumball experiment, because, I mean, like I mentioned in the beginning of the call, like you have all these other religions that have their own, I'm sure it may not be the same God they're talking about, but nonetheless, the God that they're mentioning. And at the end of the day, I mean, the whole point of the show is, you know, whether or not God is real. And I mean, you have all these bunch of people talking about, you know, how God is not real. You know, I don't know if God exists. God is real. But the whole point of the gumball, I guess, so to speak, is to prove that God does exist.
Yeah, actually, no, that's not the purpose of the gumball example, and it does not do that at all. Here's another gumball example for you. Let's imagine, with deference to Tracy Harris, let's imagine that I have 3 jars in front of me right now, since you're not looking, and one of those jars is full of gumballs that are the normal ones that you would see, and the second jar is full of invisible, undetectable, intangible gumballs, and the third jar is empty. How do you tell the difference between jar number 2 and jar number 3?
I mean, I can. Are there see-through jars, or can I not see them?
You can see through them. Do
Okay.
you think you can see
'Cause, I mean, okay.
invisible, intangible gumballs?
And I mean, I can't see. I can't see what's not there.
Well, that's the thing is one of these jars is empty and has no gumballs in it, and another one has invisible, intangible gumballs. How do I tell the difference between them?
They're invisible balls, but okay. When you say intangible, do you mean like not there, or like just like?
Intangible
I want to make sure I know.
Means that you can't touch them, you can't feel them, you have no way of detecting them.
And the question was,
how do you tell the difference between a jar full of intangible, invisible gumballs and a jar that is empty? Don't they look the same to us?
you can't. I don't fucking know, to be honest.
Cool. Here, let's try it a different way. How do you tell the difference between a God that is hiding and doesn't interact with reality in a detectable way and a God that doesn't exist?
Well, I mean, the thing is, though, there's plenty of ways of proving God, though. I mean, like, I wouldn't say God is necessarily
John,
hiding.
that's not the question I asked. That's not the question I've asked. You've already failed. You've already failed multiple times to demonstrate that God exists. I'm asking a very specific question, which is how do you tell the difference between a God that doesn't exist and a God that exists but hides so that you can't detect him?
But I don't believe in a God that hides. That's the thing.
John, did I ask you what you believe in? I asked you how you tell the difference between these two things.
A God that doesn't exist and God that hides?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either. But you seem to have detected a God. How'd you detect that God?
Well, based off of people's experiences and guesses, like, again, the Gumball experiment, because, I mean, you have different people claiming that, you know, a God exists, and, you know, obviously you have other people that don't believe in that a God exists, but the whole point is you grab the majority of the answer, or at least the average answer, and there you go. I mean, you don't.
That's the fallacy we were talking about.
They matter. I mean, that's why,
so you just committed,
people go to church, because,
John,
you know, the experiences impacted them.
John,
yes,
I'm going to mute you if you don't stop talking. Do you want me to mute you so you stop talking, or just say, okay, here's the thing. You've just committed a number of different, I want you to listen, because you're the one committing fallacies here. You're the one who's committing an argument ad populum. You're the one that is committing fallacies regarding you should believe something if the majority of people believe that. What are you going to do when Muslims outnumber Christians? Are you going to convert?
Wait, I'm sorry. Okay. I mean, could you first point to me as to why I'm making that popular fallacy? Because, I mean, my thing is, though, that, like, we should take the answer that is the average, not the most.
So that's another fallacy, that the truth lies somewhere in the middle, or that the average answer is the correct answer. It's not. Those are all fallacies. When Muslims are more populous, when the average view is that the Muslim God is correct, are you going to convert to that one?
Well, I mean, I'm not a Christian.
Do you go by the median, the mean, or the mode?
I go by the median.
Okay. So when the median view is that the God of Islam is the correct one, are you going to convert to Islam?
Might as well, yeah. I mean, like, a God's a God. I mean, the whole point of the Gumball is the point that, you know, a God even exists in the first place. I mean, if that God is true, then I'll believe in that God.
Yeah. So how do you know if it's true? Because right now the median is in one location, and the median will change. If the median right now is Christianity and the median changes to Islam, did the God that exists change because we changed our opinion?
I wouldn't say necessarily because we changed our opinion. Maybe we just understood, you know, the type of God that we're dealing with. I mean,
John,
you know,
you're not thinking. You're not thinking. Listen. You're not thinking. You just said that you'd go with whatever the median is because it's true. If the median changes, then the old median wasn't true, was it?
Not necessarily, because I mean, if they're
No,
both
no, no, no,
gods,
no,
I
no,
mean,
no, 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 no.
we
You
got
don't
one part
don't
of
do
it
not
right.
necessarily.
It's just a
It is a
variation of
fact.
it that's wrong.
It is a
know?
fact. If there is only one God, and we used to think it was the Christian God, and now the median is that it's the Muslim God, did the God change, or did our opinion about the God change?
Repeat that question again. I want to make sure I understand it very closely. That way I can answer it properly.
If the median position was that the Christian God is real, and that median position changes to where the Muslim God is real, did the God that is real change, or did our opinion about God change?
I mean, I feel like we just got the God wrong. That's it.
So the median was wrong in the past, right?
Kinda.
How do you know it's not wrong now?
Because like going back to Gumball experiment, the majority of the answer, or the median answer, I should say, the more that we have the same overlapping answers, the closer we get every single time. That's the whole point. That's the whole Gumball experiment.
I'm done.
I've enjoyed the show. I have nothing to add. The law of probability, or probability experiments, prove God a specific God somewhere, but that God can change. I got nothing. I'm good.
It's just absolutely bizarre that somebody can sit there and spew fallacy after fallacy and try to do this thing where, oh, we should go with the median because it's true. And then when you mention what if the median changes, then yes, we were wrong before. How do you know we're not wrong now? That you do not have a path to truth, John. You have no path to truth, and you don't understand that your arguments are logically fallacious.
Well, I'm also concerned about this idea that fact or reality is determined merely by public opinion or popular opinion. We look at human history and what we've called, fortunately, the knowledge economy has come a long way over the generations. But, the majority of people, the aggregate opinion was once what? That the earth had corners or was flat. That, diseases or natural disasters were caused by the gods. This idea that popular opinion weights truth in a specific direction, to me, doesn't hold water. I would like to see us go much deeper.
I have a question to ask, though. Can I ask?
Sure.
I mean, but doesn't, for example, like laws, laws are one thing that we, for example, mostly agree on as an opinion. And so far that kind of proves to be right. Like, for example, most people can agree that murder is wrong because, if everyone were to murder each other, the world would be in chaos. It would be destroyed. And
you just made an argument that has nothing to do. You just made an argument that has nothing to do with what the median opinion is.
But how so? The median opinion is that murder is wrong, right? That's why
it's not. We're not saying it's wrong. We're not saying it's wrong because it's the median opinion. It's the median opinion because we're saying it's wrong.
Wait, slow that down. Say that again one more time.
I don't need to slow it down. So, the one thing about the wisdom of crowds is that it needs to be a wide, independent sample. If you poll 100 Christians, you're going to get a very different result than you will from 100 Muslims or 100 Jews or 100 Hindus on what their God thing is. So that's where the sample thing comes in. Now you're looking at it as if, yes, but we've sampled everybody in the history of the world, and at least the overwhelming majority of them believe that there's a God. Correct. Is it possible that the overwhelming majority of them could be wrong?
Anything's possible. Yes, I agree. Anything.
Yeah. So how do you tell the difference? How do you tell the difference? How do you tell the difference? How do you tell the difference between the majority being wrong and the majority being right?
I mean, just like all other religions, I mean, you just got to have faith, man. Faith leads to truth.
Okay. See you later, John. You just got to have faith. Faith leads to truth. No, it doesn't. Faith is not a pathway to truth. Faith is not reliable. I'm having difficulty believing that John was for real, but you know.
What's that hidden line? It's called faith because it's not knowledge. I just love that line.
It's wild that we can go through and talk about the actual fallacies and, you know, you don't have to name them or anything else, but it's like, the truth is that the wisdom of the crowd, and by the way, it didn't originate with Galton. It probably originated with Aristotle, but in a different sense. But Galton's work on probability is where that gumball experiment kind of comes from. And yeah, I showed off my Galton board. It's coincidence that I've had it here. I remember Forrest and I were doing a show and he mentioned, oh, if you ever look at a Galton board, and I was like, I got one right here. So what it is there's a bunch of beads here that sit in a reservoir, and it's going to come out a little skewed because I'm holding it and not doing it. But when you tip it, the normal standard distribution is what happens. There's nothing that guarantees that this is the structure necessarily. There's nothing forcing, oh, well, we've got 12 in this, column, so now we need to put one in this column. This is just about probabilistic distribution. Now, I tilted that on purpose so you could see when the actual distribution of the balls doesn't line up with the normal distribution. It's all great stuff with probability, but at no point does it mean that the true answer is whatever the median is. But if you're going to, it's weird that you've got somebody who's calling in, advocating for the wisdom of the crowd and the median, doesn't know how to avoid an argument from popularity in some form or another. It's still the most popular that we're moving to. And then ends with, you just got to have faith. Well, you know what? No, I don't. Because I have this ability with my brain to say, I'm not convinced. I don't have enough information to reach the conclusion that a God exists. And in some cases, I may have enough information to reach the conclusion that a God doesn't. But you know what? I absolutely have enough information to conclude. I absolutely have a good enough understanding of logic and logical fallacies that we don't determine whether there's a God or not by polling people and going with the median response. The median response on any position we've ever had has changed at different times.
Hey there, Eric. Noting that anyone watching that clip makes atrociously poor life decisions, where should they send their protection money to prevent further damage?
All protection money should be sent to patreon.com/calltheline, or else we will break your kneecaps.
Okay, we can't say that. I think we can't say that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hit like and subscribe.